Alright, hey guys, this is gonna be a full review of the Ninjutso Sora V2 after around 3 weeks of use. I'm gonna be comparing the Ninjutso Sora V2 along with the G Pro X Superlight V1, not the V2. I got this Superlight around 3 to 4 years ago, whereas this Ninjutso Sora V2 I got on December 17th, 2024, and now it's the 3rd of January 2025. I purchased this mouse for around 151 Sing dollars on sale in the pink variation. In USD it's around 110 USD. So the mouse actually retails for 100 USD, but I think because of shipping and all that, it cost me around 10 bucks more. So first up, the shape comparison versus the Superlight. The Sora V2 is actually smaller than the Superlight, with a lower button height and overall height, you can see here. There is a noticeable back hump, which is something that many people who use a claw grip will look for and appreciate. Like a claw grip would be pushing your fingers in, and the back of the mouse would be at the back of your palm. And that would be a very locked in grip for aiming. Some people claim that this lower button height here helps with aiming, and I actually agree because I don't really like having my fingers floating so high up, and aiming just doesn't feel like I'm really putting my entire hand on the mouse pad and aiming. It feels like I'm floating, and it feels inconsistent and inaccurate. So it kind of feels better with this Ninjutso Sora V2 for me. I can actually fingertip grip this mouse if I place my fingers like around here on the buttons, so I can go back and forward. And let's say I'm doing like grid shot, I can just go like this. But the bad thing is that while clicking here, the clicks are actually much heavier than clicking at the top. I don't know if you can feel it, but it's just much more difficult to click here than to click here. I actually use a relaxed claw. Part of the back of the mouse, like the back hump, is at the palm of my hand, but it's not completely locked in. So there's still some way that I can go out into a slight fingertip grip and go back in if I need to be locked in. So I can aim like this. The grip is actually pretty consistent with this mouse. Like holding it and letting go and holding it again. I get the same grip every single time and it's good. However, with this Superlight, it's like okay, but it may not be the exact same every single time. This mouse is very light. It's 40 grams only, while this mouse is 63 grams. So it's roughly 2/3 of the weight of the Superlight. Supports playstyles like jitter or shaky aim better than the 63 gram Superlight. So if I need to like shake the mouse, it's easier to do so on the 40 gram than the 60 gram, especially when I'm tired. So this is easier to do so. I'll show the other camera. It's easier to like shake like this than the Superlight. There's an aim style called shaky aim for like tech FPS like Valorant, where when you aim to the head of someone, you shake when you stop. That pretty much negates the first bullet inaccuracy of the mouse, or rather the weapon. But it's not a very popular aim style and only Asuna uses it. I'm not really good at it. It just looks like a bad aim when I do the jitter aim. So yeah, I feel like the 40 gram Ninjutso Sora V2 is actually pretty okay to control and not too light. Some people may say that the best weight is 60 grams and 40 grams and below is too light, but I just feel that it's still very controlled and very stable, and it mimics your hand movements very well. Yeah, okay, back to the video. The shape of the Sora V2 actually fits my small hands quite well, and you have a similar hand size, it should fit yours well too. The Superlight actually feels large in comparison, especially if it's middle bump and it's overall higher profile, if it's higher clicks too. I'm gonna measure my hand size so y'all know what it is. 17 cm by 10 cm, so 10 by 17 cm. Okay, the build quality of this mouse, there's no issues with it. There's no creaking whatsoever, and it's very solid. There's no rattling either. Yeah, no rattling, no creaking. Moving on to the coating. The coating on this Sora V2 is very smooth and slippery. Some people describe it as dry. So yeah, when my hands are really dry and I touch the mouse, it's kinda like, can't really hear it, but like, it's just kinda too smooth sometimes. This can make it difficult to grip when my hands are dry. There's a dry feeling rather than an extremely rubberized texture when my hands are dry. But when my hands are kinda sweaty, it just feels slightly more rubbery and easier to grip. The coating may actually break in or wear down after a while, and it may get easier to grip over time. My Superlight's coating is mostly worn off, so it looks kinda shiny under the light. Yeah, it looks kinda shiny. It's cause like the entire coating has been rubbed off already. It's actually a sticky feeling when I'm using the mouse, so it's easier to grip and get a hold of in game. There's actually this spot. You can't really see it. Oh, you can kind of see the crusty spot. Focus. You can kind of see the crusty spot here. It's because the coating completely wore off, so whatever dirt gets on there just gets stuck there. It has to be wiped off and rubbed off. I can dig my ring and pinky finger into the sides to get a good claw grip easily. Some people say that the Sora V2 has slanted sides and it makes it not as good for fingertip grip. But I feel that it's actually fine. Like, I can actually fingertip grip the Sora V2 and the Superlight both pretty decently, but I have to press on the back of the mouse buttons, and that can be kinda heavier for the Sora V2 rather than the Superlight. Superlight just feels more consistent throughout. And the sensor position on the Sora V2 as well as the Superlight is pretty much perfectly in between my thumb and my ring finger. Like so. It's perfectly in between. Okay. The mouse balance on both mice seem basically perfect. Let me show you. Yeah, it seems perfect on the Superlight. And this too. Maybe a slightly more top heavy, but it's pretty much balanced all the way. The Superlight has perfect balancing. Hold up. Yeah. The Sora V2 uses on-run optical switches, and I feel like they're heavier on the back rather than the front. It can be a bit difficult and uncomfortable to use if you keep pressing the mouse buttons from the back, especially for desktop use and more non-competitive games. People feel that the clicks are nice and light because they're pressing towards the front. But actually, I press towards the back and it feels much heavier. I also struggle to get a good grip on the mouse immediately when I'm just picking it up for the first time, which could be due to its dry coating, small size, and lightweight. Sometimes the mouse can feel too light and I can't get it to touch the pad, especially when I keep lifting up the mouse to reposition. So if I keep doing this, I can start hovering the mouse over the mouse pad and it not doing anything. Like this. Because when I use the Superlight, it's pretty like low on the, like it's pretty high and I don't grip it so super low. So it's pretty much always on the mouse pad. Whereas the Sora V2, I grip it pretty much all the way to the bottom. So I can basically track nothing sometimes. There is actually some side play to the buttons, but it's not very noticeable and doesn't affect me in game. Like the Superlight has some also, and this also has some, but the gap here is pretty big. The mouse buttons also feel pretty spammable. Like I can jitter click pretty well. Let me show you. Sora V2. Raw. 13 clicks per second, so it's pretty spammable. Yeah, the mouse buttons on the Sora V2 has slightly less post travel than the Superlight, and they feel less mushy. However, the click implementation still isn't perfect on the Sora V2. The clicks can feel a bit heavy and firm compared to the Superlight, and they aren't as memorable. The sound is also deeper, as you can tell. The scroll wheel is more stiff and more defined compared to the Superlight, whereas this is just smoother and this is more defined. It's up to your personal preference on which one you like. Personally, I don't really mind both. I also don't really play games like Fortnite or like Apex, where you need to use a lot of scroll wheel movement. Alright, this is a sound test for the Sora V2. Should be unedited. Let me turn off the effect. Alright, this is gonna be a raw sound test of the Sora V2. Front, back, scroll wheel now. Alright, for Superlight, just very quickly, left mouse button, main left mouse button, right main mouse button, mouse buttons at the side, scroll wheel. I would say the scroll wheel on the Superlight is much louder than the Sora V2. The Sora V2 scroll wheel is much more muted and silent. The skates on the Sora V2 feel fine, but the glide could be a bit faster if I upgraded to the Corpets Air or the Tiger Eyes V2. The Tiger Eyes V2 has some mixed reviews, so I would just go for the Corpets Air. So it's actually not too bad now. It's kinda fast enough. Like I can do the push and it goes wee. Yeah, this is a LGG Mercury. Yep. The rounded edges on the skates are really good. It's basically no issues with the glide. The Corpets Air would cost like 20 Singapore dollars for me, so I'm not gonna upgrade them anytime soon, I guess. The sensor is a standard 3395 PixArt sensor, and it performs well. Performs normally, I guess. The latency is around 1 to 2 milliseconds. When both are powered on and go to sleep, the Sora V2 takes longer to wake up than the Superlight. This might be due to different power saving and sleep implementations, but it's not a major issue at all. For the software, when I first got my mouse, I updated the dongle to updated software version, and after the update, I couldn't use the mouse wirelessly at all. So after looking online a bit, I had to go to settings in the ninjaforce.co website and just do this receiver pairing thing. So you would have to plug the receiver into the USB-C cable, unplug it, plug the mouse in, and it will pair. You have to do this in 30 seconds. For my mouse settings, I use 1600 DPI, normal high speed instead of competitive system mode, low liftoff distance, a motion sync turn off, slam click prevention set to low, and for report rate I only have the 1K because I have not purchased the 8K dongle. Talking about motion sync, I would recommend to turn it off if you're playing really competitively. But if you're just playing casually and you want some smoothing of your cursor and input in game, like in tracking heavy games, you can turn it on. It might use some more battery life of your mouse. System mode, I just keep it to high speed and not competitive. The competitive basically The competitive mode basically uses the receiver to scan more times per second for the mouse, and the latency might improve by like 0.2 milliseconds. I'll link a video by House Gaming down below. Personally, I'm not gonna upgrade to the 8K dongle. It costs 40 Sing dollars for me, and it's kinda expensive. You can watch Optimum Tech's video on how different polling rates affect cursor input. In short, the cursor seems smoother and less jittery in 8K. Most pro players use 1K, 2K, or 4K Hz. With fewer than half using 1K Hz, that means the majority uses higher polling rates. I feel like 1K Hz is still fine for most people, and also fine for me. And besides, 8K Hz can cause some issues in other games like CS2. In summary, the motion sync and competitive system mode uses up more battery. However, I've had no issues with battery life, turning motion sync off and system mode to high speed. I've charged the mouse once since getting it, and depleting the power that came with the mouse. Overall, the aiming experience is definitely enjoyable. With the lighter 40 gram weight and the lower button height of this mouse, as well as the smaller mouse that suits my hands better. The differences in clicks don't really affect the performance in game, it just affects the desktop use, so I prefer using the Superlight for desktop use and this Sora V2 in competitive games. Yeah, by the way, USB-C charging. It is USB-C. Yep, I'll show the dongle. Yeah, so as you saw, there's a pink cable and pink dongle, which is kind of nice. I think that's all. I might post an update video after like a couple months to a year. But if not, that's it. Thanks for watching, consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye!